everyone. Happy International Women's Day. I'm here today with 5 amazing women authors, women in business: Helen Appleby, Susie Ramroop, Nassu Fofanah, Dr. Anne Whitehouse, and Bianca Best. And I just wanted to ask all of them how the last year in particular has been for them and for their women clients and colleagues and associates, so that we could get some sort of picture of how things are. And then we might talk about what we could do to make things better next year in the before next International Women's Day. So I'm going to ask you all to introduce yourselves. Helen, would you like to start? Tell us about you, your book and your business.
Thank you, Lucy, and welcome and hello to everyone. My name is Helen Appleby. I'm a coach and a women's leadership trainer. I'm the author of The Unwritten Rules of Women's Leadership and a podcast host, same name, and filming the course tomorrow. Prior to doing all of this, I had an international career in corporate life, 6 countries, ran a $1 billion business, and yeah, delighted to be here today to join in on a very important day for us all.
Great, thank you, Helen. Susie, tell us about you.
Hello, happy International Women's Day. I am Susie Ramroop. I'm an author, obviously, speaker and mindset coach primarily. So my background is in innovation and product development in the tech industry. So I tend to work with women who are in leadership positions, who are managing technical people, who constantly question themselves about whether they're technical enough. Do they need to be technical? In other words, they're suffering from self-questioning, and they hang their coat on imposter syndrome quite a lot, which is my signature talk. But really what I'm doing is helping people focus on what moves the needle for them rather than comparing themselves with the world. This is my book, Be the Leader You Want to See. And I wrote it out of pure agitation at hearing the expression, you can't be what you can't see. And if we believe that, we'll be waiting for a position to be beautifully gift wrapped and handed to us instead of deciding what we want, creating the need for it, and marketing ourselves as the only fit. That's what I specialize in.
Fantastic. Thank you, Susie. Nassu, tell us about you. Oh, you're muted, Nassu. Can you unmute yourself?
Yep.
Great.
Good day and happy International Women's Day to my sisters here present. My name is Nassu Fofanah. I am from Sierra Leone. So I'm speaking to you from beautiful and lovely Sierra Leone. I am an author, one of the newest women on the block with Rethink Press, Leave It to Nassu, which is really about my life for the first half of the century. My background is in education, gender and international development, but mostly focusing on gender and public policy. I have worked with governments, especially my government here, and served as special advisor to the former president. I am a women's rights advocate, activist with a very loud voice in my country, standing against all forms of violence against women and girls. So that's really what I do. And I recently started my business, Suso Consulting, where I'm sure I'll speak a little bit more about that, creating chili coconut oil, just like my area where I live.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nassu. Anne, let's hear from you about you and your book and your business.
Yes, hello, and what an amazing day it is today. I'm so delighted to be here. So I'm Dr. Anne Whitehouse, author, obviously, pull back your power, speaker, and a female power alchemist. And basically, I started off as a scientist in academia, in engineering, and I came across the worst of the boys' club, let's put it that way, which caused me to spiral into a burnout, chronic fatigue, all kinds of things. And that led me to work out what on earth is it that undermines high achieving women in these environments, which led to the discovery of a whole subconscious operating system. from which we can free ourselves when we know how it's undermining us and what to do. So that's really what's in my book, the understanding that we are actually being undermined on this really deep foundational level, which is beneath beliefs in our empowerment and rights and all of that. And so it's so key. Any woman who is, in an environment where you're being undermined. And so basically what I do now is I specialize in women holding their power under pressure, speaking up confidently, not pushing on the surface, running on empty underneath, but actually bringing in the power where it matters so they feel safe standing out as a leader in their field.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anne. And now, last but not at all least, Bianca, do introduce yourself.
Well, how do I follow all of these energetic, amazing women? And I think what is so interesting, we're all on such a similar agenda. We're just trying to help fellow sisters, I love that word, just empower themselves. And so I'm a writer, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a global corporate leader, I'm a mother of 4 kids. Life is busy and it's full and it's wonderful. I wrote Nourish, Redefine Success, Create More Time, Energy, Impact and Happiness. Really born out of my own experience of undulating highs and lows life where I'm stepping into frenetic productivity that actually is harming me. So really I try and help others unlock their full potential, find their power, find their confidence, do it gracefully in such a way where they're not harming themselves. And I think, you asked a question at the beginning, Lucy, around what has this past year shown us. I think stepping into the unknown territories that we've experienced over the past 12 months has really just revealed so many different personal agendas, and all experienced new levels of pressure and stress. And I've noticed that the types of requests that I've been getting, I generally coach women. It's about finding, my spiel is that find the work, the love and the vitality that you so desire and deserve. But I've found that actually I've been working with women who are feeling really fraught in terms of their relationship. So being locked down, locked in with their partner that may have harmoniously cohabited before, previously, for a long time, suddenly in a real stress state of not feeling happy, considering exiting the relationship. So the book I'm writing right now is the divorce decision, and it's around helping women step into integrity with grace, born also out of my own experience. We got divorced last year after 26 years of togetherness. But I've noticed that my clients, funny how the universe works, have actually started coming to me asking support with their own relationships and how to manage a new dynamic, and how can I help them have a healthy, positive reframe of this very challenging circumstance. And also mothers that are very anxious about their own children that have gone through such strife in the past 12 months. So I've actually started coaching quite a few adolescents and school leavers about how they find their confidence. It's been an interesting pivot that I hadn't anticipated, but a lot of children are becoming reclusive, or it's been very challenging. So yeah, that's me. And thank you so much.
That's fascinating, Bianca, and thanks for leading into the discussion about what's happened for women this year. I mean, that's a very important and interesting that your clients have actually changed their perspective in a way, and that's the issue on their minds, on their agenda at the moment. Susie, what have you found that has changed this year with your clients? Anything in particular?
A couple of things, actually. So given that my strands are working privately with people and supporting organizations, so I've always said that lockdown or the pandemic was going to be like a giant magnifying glass, and it was just going to make things that already existed bigger. So if you had great relationships at home, they were going to flourish. That's been my personal experience with my daughter, for example. But if you had a slightly unaddressed problem, that too is going to have grown. So if you had a weight problem before, you've really got a weight problem now. If you had a fractious relationship before, that's probably come to the fore, like Bianca's just said. So from the point of view of clients' needs, it's been much more about emotional support. And so as those things have been magnified, particularly the unaddressed things, people have been more struck by emotion that they can't just get by on. You know, maybe the need to just do something about it now has come to the front of their mind, and they're actually asking for more help. So for my business, that's obviously great for me because that means more people need me. From a speaking point of view, you've got the angle of organizations and leaders thinking, how on earth can I lead those people when I can't manage myself, is one part. And the other part is people worrying about the harmony of the organization, where maybe people have been on furlough, those people are coming back. There's potential resentment in those relationships, but also the people that didn't go on furlough versus the people that did go on furlough, and those people coming back together and sort of healing as individuals and as a unit, really. So in terms of my year, I had a great 2020. I'm a home person, so I loved it, quite honestly. And when I look at, you know, how I'm spending today, International Women's Day, I am in demand for the first year, quite honestly. People might think I'm always in demand. That is not the case. On International Women's Day in the past, I've just kind of gone, can't believe no one wants me to speak today. Whereas this year, because everything's online, I can do 5 things. You know, it's quite easy, and it's really fulfilling. So I think that people like us who are in the business of helping other people and making the most of what they've already got means that the bridge that we can build for people from where they are to where they want to be is a safe journey.
That's a really positive response, and interesting to hear that. I'm thrilled that it's been great for you. I'm thrilled that you're here with us on International Women's Day and you're doing other talks as well. But yeah, very interesting that emotional issues have risen within the business world as well, which I think is generally something that works out as good for women as on the whole. What do you think, Helen? You're in the corporate sphere. You're working mostly, I think, aren't you, with women in corporate positions? How's it look to you last year?
I completely agree with Susie in her sense that what was already there has got magnified in all of its senses. And so I think from a leadership perspective, if you are being led by a great leader, you know, we've all had those calls, I think, as coaches, how do I lead through this? Mm-hmm. But, you know, if they are a good leader, if they've been able to lead with empathy, then that's easier. If you were already working for a bad leader, it's been really tough. And, you know, like many of us on this call, you know, my world moved online pretty seamlessly. Definitely seen the impact on kids and, you know, kids of all ages. And mine as students. So, you know, it's been difficult, I think, for young people too. But as you said, Lucy, many of my clients are women on their leadership journey. And so the impact on working mums, on women in general, you know, has just been disproportionate, hasn't it? And I think if you're, you know, we're the fortunate ones that our work moved online, and, you know, my clients' work did too. But it's interesting that school and childcare in a way was the unspoken enabler of women being at work and of dual career families and for single parents as well. And so, you know, the expectation that women can shoulder most of the burden, or a disproportionate amount of the burden of homeschooling, and continue to work has been just, you know, crushing, really, really crushing. And having to do, you know, I've worked with my clients to, you know, negotiate for the flexibility that they need and negotiate for the support that they need, whether that's bringing someone into their home or asking their partners for more help or asking for, you know, different hours at work. It's been really difficult. And they're the ones that weren't furloughed. The other area I think that will be really longer term, not great for some people, is the aspect of moving online and moving to a Zoom culture really reduces your visibility. right? And one of my rules, my unwritten rules of women's leadership is there's visible work and invisible work. And we only get judged on our visible work. And I think if you're the kind of person who just does good work and hopes it'll get noticed, moving to this culture where we only ever see us, with 10 people on a screen, and it's kind of difficult to jump in and be heard, and the informal micro encounters where you can talk about what you're doing, or, casually have a cup of coffee with someone, they disappear. Like poof, they've gone.
Yeah.
And so if you're not a person who, and women often aren't, the people that make themselves visible, I think longer term, this is really, it's really something women are going to have to watch. And if they don't, they're really going to be kind of forgotten, and therefore not top of mind when, promotion conversations come up, and, the danger is that they just get lost. And that's really what I'm working with women on as well, is how do you stay visible through this change, and how do you negotiate for what you need to make it sustainable?
That's very specific, isn't it, to women? Well, I mean, it's probably the bulk of everybody, people who are actually working for organizations, as opposed to entrepreneurs, where we and a lot of our kind of entrepreneurial clients can go online, can be visible on Zoom, can build our own communities. But in a corporate environment, that's very much harder, or if not impossible. So yeah, thanks, Helen. That's very interesting to hear. Nassu, how have things been over the pandemic in Sierra Leone for women? You'll need to unmute you.
Yes. Thank you very much. As I was listening to Helen, I was nodding because here in Sierra Leone, I mean, if access to technology is limited, and in fact, maybe 80 to 90% more limited for women. So speaking about visibility and the impact that it is going to have on women in Sierra Leone is going to be very, very huge. So if we were to say maybe 2% of the women had access, those who have that access, in fact, reduces how many people are going to have money to buy data, which is so expensive, to be able to have these kind of. So I could just see most of our women disappearing. So in a society where confidence is already an issue, even when we were visible, when women had platforms to speak, now, and we have to really encourage them, by being visible ourselves. For those of us who I call, they call us big mouth because we're visible. It's a title that we wear, or a badge that we wear very, very well, because that is another way of showing other women that you could be heard in whichever tone of voice you choose to, as long as you get the message through. So in as much as, it's the pandemic has really opened our eyes to technology in a country with limited access, we also see the dangers, how this could minimize women's participation across the spectrum moving forward. But one really important aspect that I have noticed is I am a home person, so I love working from home because I started my professional career very late. I went to university at 31 and finished, all of that studying at 35. So I'm so used to being around a home environment. It's very much my comfort zone, but I'm also very outwardly. But here in a society like this, a working woman is not supposed to be working at home. So working from home was just, you're either cleaning the house or you're not working at all. It was not regarded as home. They think we're still cooking or we're playing. You cannot really be doing serious work and be doing it at home. So that perception, what the pandemic has done, it has changed that, because partners, children are seeing their mothers working from home, multitasking, which is really very difficult for men because they are not used to this environment. Most men, our men in particular, they are very much suited, in the office and having the cleaners come do everything. So now that they have to stay at home and share the work burden most of the time, I think it's something women are really celebrating, in a way. They see as though the men are now seeing what they've always been talking about. But it is so it's mixed. Another thing is that violence against women has increased because some women are so much not used to staying with their partners in the house because they are grumpy, and if there is no football, there's trouble. So we have those sort of complaints. But it has what I have seen from most women in the last year, including myself, is they've been very focused. There's been clarity, and people taking bold steps to do things. My book, launching my book last year, has created a lot of interesting questioning. Oh, how do we write books? What do we do? Now we know we can share our stories. So I see a lot of enthusiasm, and other women leaders, other women are coming into the into the space with their books. We never used to hear about women who've written books. Okay, so Leave It with Nassu just really has, people have been writing, but now everybody wants to launch their book. Everybody wants to talk about their books. We have young people, young women wanting to write. It's a new phenomenon. So people are saying, well, actually, maybe even if I'm not at work, I just want to go and write my book. So really, this book is just like one of the biggest things that has happened in my country. Of course, Lucy, you were at my virtual, well, we had a proper launching, but you came in virtually. It's just created a buzz. So there's a lot of confidence. It's not all gloomy. There's a lot of confidence, and we are stepping into different areas. I have stepped into creating oil, my chili coconut oils. I never thought in my life I would know how to do this. But being at home, because you have to diversify, you can't go to all these meetings, you can't travel, you're forced to look at innovation and really unleash your untapped potential, I would say. So that is what I see in Sierra Leone. There's a lot of confidence. Women are speaking out against violence. Women are craving the space, but we still have quite a lot of problems with women coming to, spaces like this to articulate the issues that they are already very well grounded in. So it's a new phenomenon, but I think it is good whenever we return to the new normal. I think people have also been able to get access to people that they would otherwise not have had access to because of what we are seeing. So there are lots of positives, I would say, and we are managing the challenges at the moment.
That's a very interesting, very different perspective from the UK one. Helen's in the US, I should say, as well. And how have you found, what changes have you found with your clients? Because your clients are quite a sort of mix, aren't they? You have people in corporate jobs, and you also have, so what has it been for you?
Okay, so I can totally relate to everything everyone has said. And really, we've got the two angles going on here, and it's really useful to look at that. So the fact that this burden of the childcare, the homeschooling falling onto the women, that flags up something that's really, really key in my work. And that's that, we have this foundational programming, which is still rooted in the past. It's still saying it's our place to be in the home and do the cooking and all of this stuff. And the world we've pushed forward so far, and we've got all the breakthroughs that we've got, a long way to go, obviously, but we've got that. However, here's the thing. What COVID has done is to put everybody into a fight or flight. Drastic change, danger we haven't had before. And what that does is sends everyone's subconscious back to what is safety. And what is safety is the past. And so then suddenly everyone kind of pulls back to the default, which is absolutely all of that stuff goes onto the woman, because that's what we are programmed to do. We are programmed that change is dangerous, the same is safe, different is dangerous. So you've got two parents both working, and in a situation where there's this danger, this extra huge stress, immediately that then puts the label of, oh, it's the woman's job. And it's just there, and it's within the women as well as the men. So all of that just, it's like pulling us back, I don't know how many years, dread to think how many years. So it's essential to hold that awareness and not just slip into it unconsciously and then find ourselves getting locked. Because of course, for somebody who may have liked the fact that, oh, excellent, my wife's taking on all this, but isn't she marvelous? I can get on with my career. They're not going to really, unless perhaps they're exceptional, they're going to actively say, right, we need to share this out. I need to make sure your career is still valued. Easy to slip into what is easy for you. And it's easy for women to just take it on. So that understanding of, hang on a minute, that subconscious stuff, that old programming is going to be labeled as safety. We need to really go against that. But leading on from that kind of leads into the opportunity, because the fact that the world is never going to be the same again and everything is being recreated, those old structures are being completely churned up energetically. So if we want to put a stake in the ground for something that's even better, we have never had a better time to do that. So it's that understanding of, I could completely plug back into the past, or I can say, actually, look at the status quo. It's all upheaval. I can now build something completely new, redefine it with that, a new default, that there is female power, female leadership, female definitions, which I can now establish without it being impinged on by all the old stuff. And so if we push into that energy and really actively do it, it's going to give us a huge opportunity. But, and speaking to what Helen said about the Zoom calls, I really have to mention this, because this is something that I actually specialize in, and I've seen this over and over again. You have a woman who is doing well in terms of speaking up, being confident, being empowered in the meeting around the table. Get on the Zoom call, and we become invisible. Because in that scenario, it becomes the effect of the voice, of course, becomes everything. So you have our voices, and then you have the booming voice of your male colleague. You are drowned out. It's a subconscious thing that puts us into the subservient position, that triggers the old programs that say, oh, she's the secretary or the tea lady, she'll take the minutes. That default is there. So again, it's to move forward, we need to understand that we need to particularly pull our energy in and hold it really firm, really powerfully, in order to get a word in and hold that space there. In terms of what I found with my clients and students, it's really good, actually, because what they're feeling is, right, I need to really push forward with my career. I need to really improve my visibility, my not just confidence, but really my expansion, my leadership. And it's like, we know that there's all these challenges coming to the economy, etc. We all know what they are, but so they're taking it as this is an opportunity for me to step into that next step for me. So they are looking at, how can I move forward with my work? How can I get to the next level? And working on that, holding their power and taking it as an opportunity. And of course, the online world, I mean, fantastic. I've never been so busy. I'm exhausted. The number of talks and summits and things, and traveling around the world. I don't like that. I like being at home. I like it, but I also love the interaction, and I love speaking to people. And it's opened up that world for so many people. And for women, getting a business online, fantastic opportunity to get maybe financial independence for the first time, perhaps. Who knows? But I think the most important thing to understand is, this is an opportunity if we are alert to not sliding back into those defaults, which will undermine us, because we'll just slide there if we're not very, very careful. But if we put that stake in the ground and say, no, this is time for something new, it's an energetic opportunity, and I'm going to do it, then we can create whatever we want.
That's brilliant. Yeah, no, that's so interesting too, Anne. Both the dangers and the opportunities, and yeah, it really is about us as perhaps as coaches or consultants, helping other women to move forward and put that stake in the ground. Bianca, do you see the sort of prevalence of divorce going on. Do you see that as a positive thing in some ways, that women are actually stepping out of dysfunctional or relationships that undermine them?
No, is empowered and born from intelligent and absolutely.
Bianca, can you move a bit closer to your mic, because we're not. I'm not hearing you very well.
Sorry.
I think that's what it might be.
Is that better?
Yes, it is. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I certainly support intelligent, well analysed and considered decisions. But what I'm less supportive of is anything that's reactive and impetuous. Something like ending a relationship has to be very deeply considered. But thinking about your point, as chatting to Anne just then about sort of dangers and opportunities, I think it's really worth reflecting on the positive and the negative of what this past year has really brought to the fore. I have a very multifaceted life. Like I said, I'm single parenting 4 children. I have a full-time corporate job and I run 2 businesses. I'm passionate about writing this book, so I'm busy. But my God, if I had to take my own medicine in terms of how to flourish, this has pushed me to my absolute brink. And I won't in any which way undermine or sugarcoat it and go, oh, well, you know, I've sailed through because I wrote the book Flourish. You know, that is not it. It has taken huge strength and motivation, some days to just even get out of bed. And so I've had to sort of really dig deep. But thinking about the positives of what have happened in the past year, I definitely have better balance. I sleep more. I love not commuting. I have a big global role. And so when I think about January 2019, I was in 8 different countries in that 1 month. And then this year I was in my bedroom down here. It's very different. So did my world shrink? Actually, it didn't, because of this online virtual world. I actually felt it was in an unprecedented way. We lent into the technology, but I was able to form relationships with real depth of intimacy that I hadn't had previously. So being in colleagues' bedrooms, meeting their children, meeting their partners, seeing their pets, suddenly actually enabled, you know, real intimacy, to the point where I've had drinks with colleagues in New York where I've actually woken up the next day in bed still in my clothes, like, oh my God, I don't even remember saying goodbye. You know, how much wine did we drink? But that would never have happened normally. So I think it's a new level of intimacy that has been enabled, which is lovely. But in terms of productivity, I've read a report the other day that says on average, women and men, to be fair, are working 2 hours more a day than we did previously. So we may not have the commute, but my goodness, are we filling that time with additional work? And this is where we need to very mindfully step into real self-responsibility around trying to shut that down. And by my own admission, I'm terrible at just fill the time with work, because I think it's a natural tendency to actually plug a void that we might feel in our hearts. Like, I'm lonely. You know, I honestly will say, despite 10 hours of calls a day, I feel lonely. I'm the only adult in this house. And the UK, my goodness, we've had a really strict lockdown. And it's really hard. And I look at my children and they're becoming more reclusive. And it's, you know, this hasn't been a wonderful, it hasn't been a wonderful experience. But I think being open and authentic about the vulnerability that we feel and sharing that also does create this intimacy. But in terms of managing our time, I think we fall into this realm where we just plug the void with lots of work. And as we reorient ourselves back into society, this is when we need to become very conscious of actually how do we want to spend our time, and then it becomes about, yes, prioritizing what we need to do, but also really focusing in on those things that energize us and get us towards those highest intentions, those biggest goals. So I think as we come out of this, there's going to be a lot of support that we're going to need to give each other and our colleagues and our children, because, I mean, I joke, my children are going to have to relearn how to look people in the eye in real life. They are so in this online world and in this gaming landscape, and it really worries me about what lies ahead for them. And to your point, Susie, about the exaggeration of everything that's going on, I see it in my children, and I see it even in adult colleagues, actually, where you get moments of oversensitivity to something. Someone does something that all creates this an explosion that wouldn't normally be there. So there's it's not been an easy year, and I think there's but being honest about the challenges with each other and helping each other, I do think there has been new levels of intimacy. So no, that's fascinating too, Bianca. So what do you all think? What do we need to do? What goals do we need to set for us, our clients, other women? What do we need to kind of do to capitalize on the positive things that have happened because of lockdown and reduce the negative things? Anybody got any thoughts on that?
I think what Anne said is spot on, that, you know, we can see this as a blank canvas, but I just want to pick up on, I'm not going to say who said it, but it's kind of like a running theme of confidence. And I'm really seeing that, and I'm not feeling it yet, but I'm wondering whether I might feel it. This whole reintegration, where we realize that the confidence we had before socially might actually have diminished slightly. And you know, people that didn't like again, this is the magnifying glass, people that didn't like networking before, now being thrust into a workplace. A lot of my clients have got new jobs and they've never been to the office, and they've never met their colleagues, and they haven't met their boss. You know, that's the type of times that we're in. But even the people that have done that re-entry to society is going to be challenging, I think, different. But I just want to encourage people to be really compassionate with themselves about that, and non-judgmental. So I'm sort of expecting, for me, that it will happen. I'm already seeing it with clients, and this whole choose to challenge theme for this year, I'm taking an angle that is very personal to me, but when I say it's personal to me, it's sort of a collective feeling for my clients as well, which is that doesn't mean calling out and you know, being quite aggressive with a challenge. I think for me, it's more of a gentle questioning and a really compassionate questioning of yourself first. So when we re-embark on this new life that we're going to have, I think we've really got to make it about us, because if we can look after us, which we might not have been doing quite as well as we may have wanted to had we not been caught quite so off guard, then I think we'll all have a better time of it. But I think if people start trying to begin life again where we left off, I think that's going to create quite a few problems. So I think we should set our expectations gently now and practice having the life now that we're going to be having then. You know, for example, a client was talking about how to re-enter going back to school. And I was saying, you know, how can you prepare yourself for that? And she had a very mindset of on the morning, the day before. And I said, why don't you have the week you're going to have on the 8th of March before? So, you know, we had this conversation at the beginning of February, and I'm like, why don't you do that now? And so to the point about people that have filled up their commute, well, if you filled up your commute, you're now going to have to add your commute. So now start living life where you are commuting, where that time is yours, where you might read a book or listen to a podcast. So I think if we can practice the habits that we would have in the new life that we design, per Anne's comments, and start building the muscles and practicing that now, then the adjustment isn't going to be quite so severe.
Yeah, that's very sensible, Susie. Yeah, absolutely. Helen, what would you be saying to your clients? What do you think is are the goals and the things they need to watch out for coming out of lockdown? If you are coming out of, I don't know if you're even in lockdown in New York, what's the situation?
Oh, still in lockdown. I think what's been interesting during this time is that productivity has gone up and culture and learning have gone down. very clearly in the workplace. And so as we come out of lockdown, whenever that is, I think we're going to have tremendous reverse culture shock. Like coming back to whatever we create, next is not going to be the old normal, because so many people have moved, have left New York, and, live a very different life. But I think the other thing that we saw during the crisis was that compassionate leadership, which is a more, stereotypically female kind of leadership, was much more effective. So as we go through this reverse culture shock, and as we create something that's new, leading in that really compassionate way is going to be what's going to help us be gentle on ourselves, be gentle on each other, and create something that's going to be better than what we had before for all of us.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, that's great too, Helen. Nassu, what are your tips for women in your country, around the world, to move forward?
Well, in Sierra Leone in particular, we've not been so badly affected by the pandemic. So we've had really nothing much compared to what the rest of the world, especially in the West, we've had to deal with in terms of lockdown. We have, we've had 2 weeks lockdowns, but it's almost like it's been normal in a way for us. We've had, people have died, but not as much as was expected. So our lives have been, it has created more, in my opinion, more of an opportunity for women to connect with each other. And as you know, in my book, the 3 C's that I speak about, what I have seen for Sierra Leonean women is that we have embraced the first C, which is that we are a community. We are not just living in our small bubble in Sierra Leone, but because of what is happening now, we are really connecting with other women. All of these women here today, I don't know if, March 8th, 2021, you would have been able to gather us in one place, and to have this conversation. But here I am with, 4 other sisters, of course, plus you, really talking about women's issues in a way, of course, with the pandemic. But that's, so having that community, embracing that community and connecting with each other and celebrating, because that's what is coming out of this conversation, that we're really celebrating some of the gains that women have gained through this process. We have to acknowledge the challenges, but from where I am sitting, there's been quite a lot of empowerment from this new way of living. So later today, for International Women's Day, we're going to have women coming together. We've just had these little clubs now where we are socializing more. We are speaking more about our collective issues, issues that we would otherwise just tell our girlfriends. Now we are talking about it in the open. So yes, we observe COVID rules, but women are now talking about issues of bullying, in the workplace. They're like, oh, it's happened to me. We're sharing experiences, either virtually or in, little spaces. So I see a lot of connecting that has taken place during this time. And I think we really need to hold on to that, because it will have a bigger positive impact for women in Africa in terms of our leadership potentials. We now know that we can draw on the strength of women like you if we're facing certain things, because we can see the resources there. So it's just a click away to send an email. Lucy, could you please connect me to Helen? I had her speaking about XYZ. Before now, it was going to be very difficult. So sharing those experiences, and of course, how we have dealt with this, not having lived in, in little bubbles like in the UK, the lockdowns have not been social. We have been just living and eating our best foods. The weather has been fine, but still, it's true. We've been eating more organically.
All right. We're all getting really jealous now.
I'm not reminiscing, but I'm just being honest that before, and this is really, really important. My daughter lives in New York. She's at NYU, and yesterday I have not seen my daughter for a whole year. And this morning I woke up, I thought, I haven't even been able to give her a cuddle. She was speaking about something the other night about, women of color, and she spoke so well. I mean, I could have been on the plane to go and say, well done, JJ, but I can't do that. So there are downsides of us being here, because it's more difficult for us to even travel now to the US. And anything could happen. So we have those insecurities. What if something terribly happens to your family member and you cannot go? So we have those insecurities. But I think the support that we have as women living here, and the support that we have out there through this pandemic, we want to be able to build on that. Yes, we're not rubbing it in, because there's nothing to rub in. We're already suffering in diverse ways, but we want to be able to cuddle ourselves and hold up and just move and be there for each other, whether we go into the extra normal, but we should keep this this positivity and this bank, this network going, that we know we can come back to, because it's a trusting place as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's, I think we'd all agree with that. And what are your final tips for all women going forward?
Right. Well, it's being really, really aware, being really alert, because we are, we say it's going to be a new normal, it's never going to be the same again, but we don't really know what that means. What that means is that it's likely to send subconsciously us into a meltdown if we're not careful. I'm not exaggerating. Absolutely, this happens. So it's the understanding of, we've got to let go of a lot of stuff, things we were attached to in so many ways in our lives. We've just got to let that go, because if any part of us is saying, oh, I just want, if only I could, on any level, we're going to undermine the future. So it's that grieving process, on however it's comes up. It's understanding that we are going to want to hook ourselves back into how things were, because it was safe and secure, and people weren't, dying of a virus. Let's face it, that's not something we've ever had in our lifetime. We have that now. It's triggered huge stuff, and we want to go back to when we were safe from that. We can't do that. So understanding that we're going to have to let that stuff go, just let it go. We can't have the life as it was, and then moving forwards, as some of the other women have been saying, and so rightly, that compassion with ourselves, the looking after ourselves, because we're going to be so tempted to slip into that looking after everybody and putting them before ourselves, because that's our conditioning for generations. To understand, no, hang on a minute, I absolutely must keep myself strong. I must look after myself, otherwise I'm no use to anybody. So it's that understanding, and the fact that when we begin to create these new patterns, we're kind of talking about it in the hypothetical sense and just putting our toes into that energy. When we're actually doing it, it's going to be totally out of comfort zones, because it's going to be totally new, not only on the surface, but energetically, because we're making these new patterns, subconscious patterns, society patterns, that it's going to feel strange, and it's going to take a while for that to feel normal to all levels of ourselves. So understanding that process, that it's not dangerous, it's just, this is what happens when you are creating something completely new. It will feel really odd, it will feel really uncomfortable, and you're likely to get your subconscious saying, oh, danger, danger, danger. But no, it's just different. So if you have that alertness to this process, then that's going to give us the best chance of creating what we want moving forwards. Whether you are the entrepreneur, or the woman in corporate, or the woman in STEM, or the full-time mother, it's the same thing for all of us.
That's fabulous. Yeah, that's a great way to end. Thank you so much, all of you. My tip for all women, as many women as possible going forward, is write your book. Get it out there. Put yourself. That's a way of making yourself visible without having to necessarily put your face on a screen, or but it helps you do that as well. It helps you get visible in all sorts of ways. So can we just end by holding up our books and saying, you can do it too? Everybody,
you can do it too.
You can do it too. And Lucy, I don't know if we can all hear each other. Could we actually celebrate the fact that even during this time, we have had two great women who have made us proud? And today, International Women's Day, we must say to the first female woman vice president of the United States, it's happened, and also the first female world Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi. These are great times for women. So we must say Happy International Women's Day to them from this group.
Absolutely.
I
Happy International
Yes.
Women's Day. All women who have really showed their strength and power over the last year. Thank you so much, Anne, Susie, Nassu, Helen and Bianca. Really appreciate your incredible insights, and wonderful to be here with you on International Women's Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you so much. Bye.